First thing I want to do is remove the wheel. 21mm socket, remove all 5 of your lug nuts. And remove the wheel. Clip here. This is what holds on the brake hose onto the knuckle. There we go. That comes off. And now get the brake hose off of here. That's loose. Now pop out the ABS wire from here, and it should also pop out of here. Perfect. I'm gonna take the cotter pin off for the axle nut. It's just safer doing this because you don't have to worry about overextending your inner CV joint. Okay, take that off. 32mm socket, remove the axle nut. Make sure it pushes through. If it doesn't, use a center punch and a hammer, punch it through. I'm going to remove these 2 nuts with a 22mm socket, and I'm going to hold the bolt side with a 17 in case it wants to spin. Okay, leave the bolt in there, but the fact that it moved is good. That means it's not seized. Let's do the bottom one. All right. So this bolt is free, which is great. This one is actually completely seized in there. So what I'm going to do before I try hammering it out is I'm going to use the air gun. Just try to spin it, break it free that way. Hopefully I can get it out, and that way I don't have to hammer on the end of it. Okay, it's moving. That's good. Let's go the other way. All right, now when I do hammer on it, to push it out, it's not going to take as much force because it's already broken free. Okay, hammer these 2 out. Okay, the knuckle does move in and out, so that's perfect. That's what you want. Be careful of your ABS wire. You don't want to crush it. So a trick to getting bolts out that are stuck like this is you take a wrench and you basically unthread the bolt as you press on the wrench. That'll drive it out. There we go. That's out. At this point, you can pull down on the knuckle, push the axle through, separate it from the strut. There we go. Make sure the axle pushes through so it does not separate that inner joint. You can leave that just like this. This can stay like this. There's no pressure on either of these 2. This is extended as much as it will go, and these are safe. Now from underneath with a pry bar, I'm going to pop the axle out of the transmission. Fluid might leak out. There we go. All right. Okay. Remove your axle. And here's your old driver's side CV axle. Now you want to line up the axle with the hole there, twist it in place, and as soon as the splines line up, you can go ahead and press it on. I'm going to use a rubber mallet and hit the end of the axle. Hopefully that'll press it in. There we go. All right, one last thing before the axle goes into the hub is I like to put anti-seize on the splines here. This is going to prevent it from getting stuck in there in the future, and then you won't have trouble getting it out if you ever need to. You don't need much, just a little bit. Now you can line it up with the hub and press it through. I have a support on my lower control arm, which is going to help me bring the knuckle up. If you're on the ground, you can just use a floor jack. Once the holes are lined up, whichever one lines up first, Go ahead and start a bolt through. That way it's in place. And now press it in. Okay, with the axle going through the hub, I can press in the top, start that bolt. Okay, now put the 2 nuts on, and let's tighten these up. Let's snug these up. 22 millimeter socket and 17 millimeter wrench. Now let's torque it. 117 foot-pounds for both of these nuts. I'm going to hold the bolt with my wrench. All right, perfect. Now let's put in the ABS wire where it belongs, here, and then in the back. Now we have to put the brake hose through this bracket. There's a little cutout on the bottom of this bracket, which needs to line up with that little notch right there. It's hard to see. Yeah. It needs to line up with that little notch right there, that little point. So when you put it through, put the hose part through first, and then you're going to have to twist it and wiggle it until everything lines up. And once it does, it'll pull through enough to where you can put this bracket on, which is what locks it in, hammer it into place, and now that's locked in. Now let's put the axle nut on. I'll bottom it out. Now I'm using an air gun, but I'm not using it to tighten it, I'm just getting it close. Okay, now we'll torque it. Now I'm going to take my pry bar, put it through 2 of the lug studs, and that's going to hold the hub for me while I torque this. Just like that. Torque this to 110 foot-pounds. Right there. Now put on this. This is going to lock your axle nut in place. Slide it on all the way. And, well, the cotter pin is supposed to go through one of these slots, but this goes deeper than where the hole is for the cotter pin, but that's okay, at least it's on there. Take the cotter pin and bend it over to lock it in. Come on. Perfect. Now let's get the wheel on. Start on all 5 of your lug nuts, snug them up, and then I'll torque them to 80 foot-pounds. All right.